about 4 foot in diameter and about this so thick. Okay. About a little over an inch thick steel. And they welded them in Fairbanks, 90-foot lengths. I mean, they were 45 to 90 feet. And so they had 9 of them that put on a truck and trailer. Tractor. The tractors were so big, the tires, you and I could walk together, you on my shoulder, saying to in a tire that's open, where it's hooked on the wheels, it's over, and not touch anything. And I came up there, they called me because I knew one of the fellows that helped me. I helped with him when they built the extensions for the runways and so forth for Anchorage. And I did a calculation they needed because they're talking about different things. Because there you've got the permafrost and so forth and things like that. So you got to figure out the calculations of something, and if you're not in the right business, you're not going to be, everything's going to sink. Like Uncle Sam did that anyhow because they didn't want to have it the same way that Alaska built it. So they built it real alongside of it, and the next year it was sunk. They dug down into the permafrost. But this pipeline deal, what was wrong with that in the wintertime, that's how they had the only way they get across the thing. Because these pegs were so large and so heavy and so long in weight, when they latched them together, and they got to the point where they have to make some turns, the torsion twist that came out of the trailer was picking the truck, it's the tractor truck where the power is, off the ground, and it's making it stall out. Slip, okay? And once it starts to sit there too long, the heat that they got gets in, and the damn thing slips away, and they were losing trucks and trailers that looked like this. So they called me. I mean, the guy that I know of, they called me.
Okay.
He worked in what they called the Prudhoe Bay Group, which was a bunch of companies that are in this oil business. There was 7 or 8 or 9 of them, okay. They call them Shell and all this guy. So I got involved in it, and I went up there and rode with them to see what's going on. And I came out and I said, you continue to do this and so forth, yeah. So I took the figures that I figured out, and I got a center, I've worked out what's the center longitude, center of gravity for these things that rotate. These 99 units up there, how much they weigh and so forth. They're sitting there. Center of gravity, I got to figure out something to roll this thing from that weight up there. Do you have something underneath that's going to go like a cradle, and that center of gravity has to go up to that cradle, has to be made so that thing can turn and release and never pick the wheels of the truck driver off the ground.
Okay.
That's what they did.
So you figured that one out.
Yeah. Well, I built it for I didn't. I had somebody else do it. So my company did it.
Figured it out, drew it on paper, and say, "This is how you make
That's
it."
when we worked on it, doing some testing. We made some tests at our own place to make sure that getting the center of gravity is going through a thing that's 100 and some feet long, with this kind of load, and you're going to have at what figure. How do you have to relieve that pressure on this thing? So I had a cradle in there, and this thing was just like this. But when it got to test it was also to the point that was locked in, it wouldn't roll over because the back of the trailer is still keeping the load off of its wheel. It's not affecting the trailer, its power anymore. Because if the loads, there's enough weight still going down on that thing to see what stops if it was flat. Mm-hmm. And that was what I was after.
Okay.
And if you know how to calculate what you want to get the center of gravity, or looking at what you want, and that's the things I did a lot for you to steel. When you get the rotary kills and so forth, there's ways that you can save money by how you change the diameter with the same block. Okay.
Okay.
And I won't get into that.
All right. Well, cool.
I ended up having to leave them because of my medical problems. I couldn't stay in the wintertime. I had to get someplace where there was no.
It's too cold for your aching
bones. The first time I went to the West Coast, I went to, which is a garden spot as far as I'm concerned, Santa Cruz in California. Beautiful, warm and nice. Wintertime would kill you because the stuff would go up there, and I collapsed on the street. At 2 or 3 months going into the winter.
Okay.
Hospital, I called them back, and I had to come back here to the hospital.
It's from the wounds he received in combat, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me how those wounds came about.
Huh?
In the combat you were on, I guess you were on a B-17 mission and you suffered some pretty serious wounds.
Yeah.
How did those wounds come about? How did you get those wounds?
Shot it.
Do you remember what mission you were on? Going where?
It was in, I can't tell you, but it was the latter part of June.
You say Cherbourg, right?
It was, I was at the over
Okay.
Cherbourg, yeah.
So that
Then
was
what happened, the shell exploded.
June of '44,
Yeah,
right?
June of '44. The shell exploded between me and number 2 engine.
This is right after D-Day, about a week
Right,
after
it was
D-Day.
about a week or two.
It's about 18, I think that
About
the
18.
Cherbourg mission is around the 18th or something.
Yeah, it was a couple.
June or
couple-
11th or
it-
something.
It was right into towards the latter part, but it's in the Cherbourg deal. And I ended up getting flak in here, but the shell and concussion was most of it. The flak was in my left arm and so forth some of the, but it blew me off of the, okay, and by that time I had the thing done. North bomb sights here.
Yes, sir.
I had to, you can flip it over and you've got controls for shooting.
Okay.
50-gallon machine gun stuff. And I had that, but what happened when this thing blew up, I got the flak coming in there, but the concussion blew me against the side of the airplane.
Okay.
And I'll show you just, not only this, I don't have any controls of this. I have no feeling. But if I start to move these, the way they put the nerves back together, you watch what happened.
Okay.
I can't do these, and I have no control of it. I can't do like this.
Okay.
But I've got my arm. Don't misunderstand it. So
Yes,
I'm not crying about it. That's the best thing that ever happened to me as far as I'm concerned.
They saved your arm.
Yeah, I say, yeah.
Okay.
I have a hard time with, if I have to do something. I put this thing, like if I'm gonna open the jar, I put this thing down, I put my chest over top of it, and I push that press it, and I turn the jar with my other hand. But I can hold that lid so it pops open.
Okay.
Yeah, just things like that.
Okay.
So they had some stuff in your head they had to take
Yeah,
care of
well,
also.
I got the, and then when this side here, if you can look here, there's a scar that runs through here, and down along through here, and down along here, and across here.
Because that's where you banged your head up.
That's
on
where it hit, it blew me against the damn side of the airplane.
Yes, sir.
And the next day or two, all it did was got sewed up. They took took the crap out of me from, the flak and so forth.
Not all of it.
Not all of it. I had a piece that left up here because they didn't want to go through the nerve. So they left that. It's calcified over.
Okay.
It stayed, and now it's no problem. I couldn't get in an airplane. I couldn't go through the things at the airplanes.
Okay.
But now because it's calcified over, it's still there. But it's but I just have like no feeling. I'd
Okay.
burn my hand if I lay it down. It would burn before I come too close.
Okay. Because you don't have the
I don't have that feeling.
feelings. Okay.
And now the damn nerves are working down to my knees and so forth. Everything. It's happening. He said, the doctor says you can't keep on going, working one side that you can't have to take care of the other side. Eventually, your body runs out. That's
Okay.
So that's
Now you didn't do any after this Berlin mission though. Ben Forrest never flew with you again
never
No.
did.
after that,
No, because we didn't have a crew after
right?
that
Because your
mission.
crew was gone with.
Our crew broke up completely. We didn't have any officers. Haddock did come back out of the crew.
Right.
Harkin didn't. I wasn't in there to start with.
Okay. And McNally, the navigator, do you know? Did he end up getting out altogether because of shell shock,
okay,
or just went to different planes?
Okay, Dick and I went through that a little bit and trying to figure out what happened to him. And he got out. He went with some group or something. He got in and he did 4 or 5 or 6 missions with them, and then completely went out. He was with nobody. So I don't know what
Okay.
happened to him or why. And we couldn't tell either from what Dick had on his thing. But he found him when we were going through that. He found him, and he did come back maybe 5 or 6 weeks after we had that mission, and went for a while, and then he disappeared.
Okay.
He's not in the records anymore. Let's put it so. He never flew anymore.
Okay.
So I don't know if he flew 10 missions or 12 missions or 13 total, and that was it.
All right.
But I knew what had happened to him. We had trouble with him even getting sick and so forth when we were still in OTU, which before we even left the States.
Okay.
So it was one of those things that we thought was going to clean up, and he did too, but it never did.
It just never got any better.
Being sick is one thing, but the other side, what happened on that mission was, it just
He just went into total shock.
He went into shock.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what he hadn't done. Being sick is one thing, but shock is different.
And then, kind of what we would finally diagnose now is PSTD, because he never did get over it.
I don't
And
know, probably
so
that's true.
ultimately,
Yeah.
that's why we would be diagnosed today. You end up with PSTD. And that's really hard to treat. It's real difficult to treat. Even today, it's real difficult. But okay, all right. So, do you want to elaborate a little bit more about what your dad did?
Well, I think on the mission, Chuck covered it. I mean, basically, he was doing whatever Chuck told him to do.
Okay.
And the beauty of the whole thing is that he did that. Chuck
Well,
organized the group.
again, it was fortunate enough to have a person, it was fortunate the first thing that we were down on the damn overcast.
Okay.
But it gave me an extra fella to could join up and down. It still had enough protection for upstairs, anything above us that airplanes are coming in. Which these guys were watching the airplanes above us until we got out of the target area, being attacked by Germans, B-17s.
I think Dad said he was, basically he was providing first aid, and he was shuttling between the flight deck and the back end of the airplane, talking to guys, taking orders from Chuck.
Yeah, and they'd take them, arrest them, we
Yeah.
rotated them and did things like that. It would take some time, he'd say a quick order, they'd arrest or something like that. Because you can't take guys and put them in one spot. It's bad enough to be looking for a plane that's gonna come in and shoot them. But for that kind of time, and I'm talking about to get out of there, was a lot more. It made us 2 or 3 hours late getting back to the thing, but that thing must had to be 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 hours for us to get around that thing.
Yes, sir.
Totally. Yeah, and get back. So these guys, you got them on needles and pins. You had to move them someplace, or have them do something,
Yes, sir.
So even some of them putting sprinkling stuff on Parkman's face and giving them shots.
Yeah, Dad talked about it. He used sulfa.
Yeah, sulfa and
Okay.
codeine. Yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
they did exactly. I never had anybody question me on anything, which really surprised me. But I didn't tell them everything to you because you know what. But what our problem really was, as far as they were concerned, I said we're going back to England. That's what we're going to do, and that was what we did. That was the last word was spoken about getting back to England.
Okay.
Right off once we got level. And I said, you're gonna have to do certain things you never did. And the guy that fell over, it was laying there on the floor, it ended up being up in the top turret. But I used him lots of times to help me try to get this thing pulled up with the thing and help this. I had my hand on here and I said, you watch this thing and if it gets above, change air speeds, I says, put your hand on, push me to where it does show what I'm wanting. I want the 140, I don't want to go below and I don't want to be above 150. And I do other things that I can't keep up with this, but I got to keep the pressure. Somebody's got to do it, and he's back here, so you can't take him out of the bell turret completely. But he did work for a lot of things. But then Ben was the guy that went up and down the airplane from tail to nose, period. And it worked out real well, believe me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Between him and the radio operator. Yeah.
So you were born at all. When your dad came back? Tell me a little bit after he came back.
Okay, he actually he finished his tour in
Do you remember what
late
year,
June,
what time? Late June?
44,
44.
and ended up coming back and re-entering flight training. And with the intention of going to Japan. He wanted to fly a B-26 Japan. So
Okay.
he got partially through and the war ended. So he was in advanced training in the AT-6 or something. He said, I was in the pattern with an instructor, flying around doing landings. The instructor heard a radio call, landed and said, see ya, I'm out of here. And at that time, everyone got out. I think 2 guys out of his class of 56 stuck around. He didn't. He went back to school, ended up working for Boeing for 40-some years out of Seattle.
Was he a pilot for Boeing or
Nope.
engineer?
No, he never flew an airplane after that.
Okay.
An engineer kind of guy.
Okay.
Yeah. I was born in 1950, after I got out to Seattle in 1948, got on with Boeing, and I was born a couple years later.
Okay.
I'll tell you just a side time that this is the kind of thing about how odd things can be. Boeing was a #1 customer for me from 1958 till now.
I didn't know that.
All their engineers and so on. I made some of the equipment for them, for some of the missiles things and things like that.
Okay.
And in the engineering department, just unbelievable.
Cool.
Just
Do you remember ever working with Ben Senior?
never
No.
saw him, never even knew it.
You never knew he was an engineer at Boeing?
No, I didn't. I met Ben in